said, a fisherman is only as good as the bait that they use. So tonight I want to talk about what happens when we use the wrong bait. And I want to equate that with evangelism today, or evangelism as we know it. So, real quick lesson. Matthew 28. Some of you may be familiar, some of you are not. But it talks about the Great Commission and how our job, our calling, every Christian has the same calling, initially anyway, and that is to go out, and that is to compel others to come in. That's to make disciples of men. When we make disciples, that means that we have to go out and get them first. And then when we go out and we get them, then we bring them in. We tell them all about Christ even the more. We teach them and we train them the ways of Christ according to the Bible. Then they, as disciples, are able to go out and repeat the process, and it becomes a revolving cycle where we are continually able to go out and reach and meet the needs of the souls that have not yet come to Christ. But what happens when we're using the wrong bait? What happens when we can't make disciples because we can't bring them in? What would be the wrong type of bait? Think about it. A fisher throws his pole out into the sea and he's got the wrong bait on there. And one of two things are going to happen. Either all the fish are going to bypass it, or one, maybe in his desperation or not paying attention or what have you, might just catch on to that bait. But it's not going to be effective. So it won't get the fish that the fisherman initially thought or sought out to get. It will be drawn back out into the sea, or even thrown back out into the sea, because you'll end up pulling something out that you didn't really want. So when we use the wrong type of bait, what could be the wrong type of bait? Condemnation, guilt, deception, not being compassionate, rules, regulations, which we'll talk about a little bit later, boastful, being prideful. These are all the wrong types of bait. People don't want to be beat over their head because of what they're already going through. Because you know what? When a person is living a certain type of life, it doesn't matter how glamorous they try to make it look. They are already tormented. They are already in a state of mind where they really don't need us to add anything extra to their plate. So when we go out and we commission, we evangelize, we go out to witness, to bring other people in, we have got to be effective. And how are we going to be effective? Our method and our bait. If we are to walk in the image of Christ, and we are, because we are made in his image. So if we're made in his image and it is in our DNA, then we should be able to walk like Christ walked, with love and compassion and meekness and temperance, all that. That is how we have to approach people. Yes, the ones who might spit back in our face. Yep. The ones who might hit us. Yes, the ones who don't want to hear what we have to say. Yes, the ones who don't want to hear about that Jesus, don't want anything to do with that Jesus. Yes, the ones who are Muslims. Yes, the ones who are Buddhists. Yes, yes, yes. And yes, I've been there. So you might be watching and thinking, she hasn't been through any of this. Yeah, I have. And I have had to learn, because my initial approach when I first came to Christ, now about 19 years ago, I was very dogmatic. I was very pushy, because I felt like anybody who didn't choose God or didn't choose Christ, basically I felt like, wow, that's dumb. You would really just not do what I'm doing? You would really sit there and live this damnable life that you're living and just not ever want to come over to the good side? That was I was very condescending in my approach. Like, I talk to people like, you must be dumb for not wanting to come over here. And we do it all the time. But again, people don't want to be beat up. They're already in beat down situations. Pastor Lawless, Evangelistic Church of God in Christ, he used to always say to us, one thing God will never be charged with is breaking and entering. Why? Because he's going to make himself available where we'll know that he's available, but we have the option, the free will to go and accept him for ourselves. But he's never going to just beat us all the way down and make us accept him. because then we wouldn't have free will. Our job as disciples is to go out and to give the word. And again, to give it with love and to give it with compassion, to give it with grace and mercy. Grace and mercy is where it's really at, because we have to extend grace and mercy to others just like at some point it was extended to us. Not feel like, well, now that I'm saved, I've got it all together. We got to come down off that high horse. We can't talk about evangelism and not evangelize. We can't talk about the love of Christ, but then not show the love of Christ. We can't talk about what people don't have together, but then we're not willing to help them put it together. We can't talk about people that haven't learned when we're not willing to sit here and teach. It's a whole lot of finger pointing going on, but nobody taking accountability and responsibility. Check your bait. Oh, that'll preach. Check your bait. We have to bring people in and not just give them the fluff, but we have to give them the reality of it all. How do we do that? Transparency. But again, that is one of the places where I can't say we failed, but we have faltered. How? Because somewhere along the way, someone taught or thought that as saints of God, we are supposed to be perfect. Yes, we are supposed to strive for perfection. So I'm not saying we fall down, we get up and keep on falling, keep on falling, keep on falling. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, realistically, we have all been in a place where we have needed the grace and the mercy of God. All needed it. And some of us find ourselves there more often than not. It just is what it is. But nobody has it all together. So we don't have the right to approach people as if we already have our white robe on, as if we have it all together. No evil have I done, never done this, never thought an evil thought, never said an evil thing. We have to keep it real and transparent without being carnal, because being carnal is not keeping it real. It just says you need to be delivered. That's what that says. But people need to know when they come in, let's be real. They need to know what we go through. Testimony service is not even testimony anymore. People need to know the reality of what it is that we face, because we are talking to people in the pews that need to be delivered from some real things by a real God. And sometimes it just might be your testimony that might pull them on over. We can't get up acting like we're so perfect, because you know what? It's not ministering to anybody. It's not helping anybody. And people are walking out, leaving more bound than when they came in. The world is looking for a real experience. They want to come in and find something genuine, not the fake gold-plated stuff they're getting out there in the world, not the stuff that the enemy is covering up and making them think that that's the real thing and that is what they want. No, they need the real thing. So when they come in, they don't want the pretenses. They don't want the judgment. And you know what? I get it, because one area that we need help in is judgment. Why? Yep, the Bible says righteously judge. So don't watch this and say she's saying don't judge. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, if you are going to judge, then be in a position to restore. If you're going to blast them out and expose it, then tell them what it's going to take to get to a better place. But don't just call people out because it's not something that you have struggled with, because it's something that you have all together, and then you expect them to jump on your high horse and ride off into the sunset with you. That's not reality. It's not God. It's not love. It's not grace. It's not mercy. And it is not how we are going to make disciples of men. So we've got to check our baits. How are we drawing them in? Are we even bringing them in? Or are we too busy recycling praises and recycling messages and hoops and hollers and shouts and runs and doing nothing but reviving one another? The same people on the same row, the same people every day, the same songs, the same messages. Are we actually making disciples of men, or are we regurgitating the same processes and nobody is being changed? When this came to me, let me tell you, it always hits home first. So I wouldn't tell you to do something that I don't do myself. We've all got to check our bait. We've all got to do better with keeping it real. We've all got to do better walking in a place of grace and mercy. All of us. But evangelism is necessary. There is no church, there is no modern day church without evangelism. It is needed. It is needed. So we've got to hit these streets. We're in church shouting and talking about taking back what the devil stole from me. Let's start with those souls that are out there. Forget going after that $7 that he took from you. Let's go after those souls. Let's go after these girls, the sex trafficking. Let's go after the organ harvesting. Let's go after the drug dealers and those that are taken over by drugs. Let's go after the women who are being raped, the children that are being molested. Let's go after that. That's what the devil stole, and that's what we need to go after. Not our clothes, not our bank accounts, not our cars, not our houses. Yep, those things are all good to have, but you know what? We need souls. So I talked longer than I planned on talking, but I admonish you, please check your bait. Just take a minute before you say it. Think about it before you give it out. Am I drawing someone? Am I pulling them in the way that I would want to be pulled in? Am I giving the love that I expect to receive? Am I showing the grace and the mercy that I don't deserve, but that I get anyway? We have to check what it is that we are putting out, because that is going to directly affect the results of what we are getting in. I hope this blessed you. Y'all have a good night.